And we are back to the GSMC. Actually, wait, no. I messed up that whole intro. Great. Thank you for tuning in to the GSMC Sports Podcast presented by the GSMC Sports Network. I am your host, Nelson, here on this Thursday afternoon. And this is going to be fun. This is going to be a very fun segment. Why? Well, the first segment, we're going to start talking about the greatest basketball player of all time, LeBron James. And his ridiculous performance against the Memphis Grizzlies last night. So we're going to open up and we're going to talk about that. And then in the second segment, we are going to talk about my least favorite franchise in the NFL. Well, one of my least favorite franchises in the NFL, the Dallas Cowboys. And we're going to talk about how their season is going absolutely remarkably well, and how Dak Prescott has season-ending surgery and everything that Dallas loves about their team. We're going to talk a little bit about that in the second segment. Then in the third segment, we're going to look at Giannis Antetokounmpo and his incredible performance going into, in yesterday's matchup against the Pistons. And we are going to also talk about whether or not I think their season has been revived. Spoilers, I don't think so, but, I'll talk a little bit more in depth than that, in the third segment when I actually can. And then in the fourth segment, we're going to do a quick NBA recap. There were a lot of great performances the other day in basketball. I mean, there was so many people that dropped 40 points. There were two people that dropped almost over 50 points. And obviously, we're going to talk about LeBron dropping his triple-double again in the first segment, but that's going to be the fourth segment. So we also have a special fifth segment at the end of the fourth segment, so be sure to stay tuned for that if you guys want to figure out what that is. Before I begin, however, I'd like to remind everybody that we love to hear what you guys have to say during the show, whether you guys have a hot take, whether you guys have a burning question, something you've been dying to share. We're all ears. If you really want your comment and or question to get noticed, then I recommend using Super Chat. You just click on the $ below the chat box and you can send in your comments and or donations that way. Or you could also use the link displayed below the ticker on all these show segments as well, gsmcpodcast.net, and you can send in your comments and or donations like that. And, either or really helps the show, makes it much more interactive between myself and you guys. So with that out of the way, let's go right ahead and let's get into this first segment, which is going to be talking about the greatest basketball player of all time, LeBron James, LeBron James, LeBron James. He is just that guy. Why is he that guy? The last 3 games that he's played, he has had a triple-double in every single one of them. He has become the oldest player in NBA history to record 3 straight triple-doubles in 3 straight games. In this game, he ended with 35 points, 12 rebounds, and 14 assists. What can't LeBron James do? He's going to end the season with a lot more triple-doubles than what most people think, mainly because now that D'Angelo Russell has been benched, he's the point guard in the starting lineup. Anthony Davis didn't really play that well, but that's okay. It doesn't matter. When you got LeBron dropping 35 points and 12 rebounds and 14 assists, you're bound to win games. And in the last 3 games that LeBron has dropped a triple-double, the Lakers have won in every single one of these games. Is he not the greatest basketball player of all time, or is he not the greatest basketball player? Now, I understand that some of these wins came against teams that were less than mediocre. For example, the 76ers did not have Joel Embiid, not to mention the Toronto Raptors, who did not have Scottie Barnes, and now, not to mention the Grizzlies, who did not have Ja Morant. But that is okay. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter who's on the team. It's not like Ja Morant was going to stop him from getting a triple-double. It's not like Joel Embiid was going to stop him from getting a triple-double. And it's not like Scottie Barnes was going to stop LeBron from getting a triple-double. He is just the greatest basketball player to ever live. It's that simple. And really, he was the only highlight of the game for the Lakers. He's shooting the ball very well, by the way, I have to add, but everyone else in this in the lineup was rather mediocre, aside from Roy Hachimura and Dalton Knecht. I mean, Dalton Knecht, he finally had a great game. He went 7 for 8 from the field and 5 for 5 from 3. He did not miss from the three-point line. Roy Hachimura, he ended the game with going 6 for 7, also had 19 points, and 3 for 4 from 3. And, he missed a shot from everywhere around the field. So he missed 1 shot in the field goal area. He missed 1 shot from 3, so I guess that was the field goal that he missed. And he missed 1 free throw. So, yeah. I mean, just a fantastic player and a fantastic role player that the Lakers need. Two players who have not been fantastic for the Lakers are Austin Reeves and, of course, D'Angelo Russell. There's a reason why D'Angelo Russell was benched, and it's a good thing, because in this matchup, he ended with only 8 points. Absolutely amazing, right? He shot 3 for 9 from the field. Absolutely amazing, isn't that right? And Austin Reeves, he's been awful from 3. I don't know what on earth is going on, but this guy has not been able to shoot the ball efficiently at all. He's incredibly overrated, in my opinion, to a lot of these Lakers fans. I don't know what it is about. For some reason, not to be like, generalized, but not to draw a bunch of generalizations, but there's always that one white guy on the team that everybody just loves. It was Alex Caruso at one point, and now it's Austin Reeves. And let's see. I mean, he's shooting around the same 3-point percentage as he was last season, but I do have to say, I've rarely seen him have, a good game on the Lakers. Most of the time, I see him shoot very inefficiently, and I don't understand why he keeps shooting. I also don't understand why he can't hit more three-pointers. It's really confusing to me, because, 5 for 14, the Lakers are lucky that they ended up winning this game, because I think if they had Ja Morant in this matchup, then they would have won, at the end of the day. I think that's sort of what would have happened. But not to mention Gabe Vincent also going 0 for 6 from the field and 0 for 4 from 3. The team as a whole, they shot very well from 3, 20 to 41 from the 3-point line, which is 48%. The Grizzlies, on the other hand, they shot 36% from 3, which is the big difference maker. Jaren Jackson Jr., he played pretty well in this matchup. 29 points, 10 for 20 from the field, 2 for 7 from 3. Santi Aldama, he had only 15 points, 6 for 14. Scottie Pippen Jr., he was looking forward to this matchup, but of course he played horribly, 6 for 14 and 15 points. I don't know what it is, but it's most of the time, whenever these players, whenever these role players, I should say, are saying that they're looking forward to playing this one team, they don't nearly play as well as they think they will. And Marcus Smart, as you could see in the image right there, he got fouled a lot, shot 8 free throws, made 7 of them, was 3 for 5 from the field, and ended the game with 15 points. And as a team, I will say that it seemed like the Grizzlies were more or less a little bit better as a team than the Lakers were. It was mainly just, LeBron James doing most of the heavy lifting. Anthony Davis was still performing pretty well too, but again, not necessarily the same caliber MVP performance that we've seen him up until this point. 6 for 16 from the field. I'm not saying that is, bad, but I'm also not going to say that that's, the same level of play that we've been accustomed to seeing Anthony Davis so far in this season. And will this affect him in the MVP rankings? Most likely, because, Nikola Jokic has been phenomenal in the MVP rankings, and not to mention he's been a phenomenal player, period. And Anthony Davis he's still, how should I say this? We need another 30-point game from Anthony Davis. We need another dominant performance. I'm not saying that he's not playing rather efficient, but he is also getting a little bit injured. There was some debate that Anthony Davis was going to have to wear some goggles, those Kareem goggles, after getting poked in the eye. But again, it's the last time that he had 31 was against the 76ers, and even then, the 76ers, they were not a good team. They were a very bad team without Joel Embiid. You can make the argument that they're still a bad team even with Joel Embiid. Later, they played again today, but guess what? It's a back-to-back game, and Joel Embiid is not going to play back-to-back games anymore because he's afraid he's gonna hurt himself. So, there's that in the running, which means that Anthony Davis is probably going to have, without Joel Embiid being in the MVP race, Anthony Davis is probably going to have a much better chance of winning the MVP. And even though I don't think that's really going to happen, because Nikola Jokic is just Jokic. But aside from that, LeBron, triple-double. LeBron, what do we expect? What more does LeBron have to do to prove his greatness? And can he keep this up? That's really the big question. With him playing at point guard now. Like, not really playing point guard, but bringing the ball up. I'm sure we all know the difference, right? I mean, the Lakers, they're going to play the Spurs for the NBA in-season tournament standings. So just a little bit of a reminder for you guys looking at the bracket, excuse me. And on Tuesday, I believe, the Phoenix Suns, they played the Jazz, and they won by 8 points. So right now, Phoenix is at the top of their Western B standings, and we're waiting for the Lakers to play, and we're also waiting for OKC to play. Now, it doesn't seem like OKC is going to... Oh, wait, no, yes, they are. OKC is going to play the Phoenix Suns tomorrow in the NBA Cup. And right now we just await the Lakers to see if they can win, and we're going to see if the Phoenix Suns can beat OKC. If the Phoenix Suns beat OKC, then as of tomorrow they would be the number one team in the Western B group. But if OKC ends up winning, and if the Lakers end up winning, or if the Spurs end up winning, then there is a battle for number one. And we'll have to see sort of exactly which teams end up winning in these games. Will LeBron get a triple-double in that matchup against the Spurs? I don't know. It's really, really difficult to predict triple-doubles. I mean, he's on a roll right now, so maybe he can, but I will say that most of the time when he has gotten these triple-doubles, the team sort of lacks their best player. Now, is it easy for LeBron to get assists? I mean, most of the time, yes, and it's also, like, surprisingly, despite the fact that Victor Wembanyama is 7'4", he doesn't really seem to get nearly as many rebounds per game as one would expect. Like, so it could be possible. It definitely could be possible for LeBron to get another triple-double in this next game. So if I were to do a bet, I would honestly go ahead and bet that, yes, LeBron would get another triple-double going into this matchup. But it's like, how could he not? There's, like, nothing that LeBron James can't do. And even in this performance, he was just ridiculous. He was hitting... He's also shooting the ball very well this season, might I add. I mean, I believe he's shooting around like 88% from the free throw line. And if you guys know LeBron, if there's anything that LeBron has struggled with in terms of offensively, which is like a very rare thing to say, LeBron struggling offensively, it's usually his free throws. But so far in this season, now he's 78% from the free throw line, which is a little bit more accurate than what people expect, but his three-point percentage is 45%. He is just shooting the lights out. This is LeBron James we're talking about. But that's all that I really have to say. We're done talking about LeBron. So now we are going to have an absolute field day with the Dallas Cowboys. We're going to talk about their amazing season. This is their year, guys. Did you know that? So we're going to go ahead and talk about that right after this short break. So be sure to stay tuned. If you want to have some fun, if you don't like the Cowboys, then you're gonna like this next segment. If you do like the Cowboys, you're probably not going to like this next segment. So stay tuned.
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign.
I wanna be the greatest. Everybody on the fake shit. I look around and feel like everybody is the fakest. I make this every day and I'm impatient, hoping one day I blow up from the basement. Statement, the top is so vacant. I don't hear shit that I think is amazing. Waiting for my day when I'm playing sold out shows for 1,000 faces. Hey, give me that crown, get in my way and to be put down. It ain't your place, all this my town. If I want that shit, then I'll get it right now. I'm losing it, the noose it fits. I'm losing shit, a stupid myth. You choose to live or choose to dip. You choose to fight or lose your grip and lose a gift.
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind?
I have been waiting forever to do this. Anyways, thank you for tuning in to the second segment of the GSMC Sports Podcast, presented by the GSMC Sports Network. And for those of you guys on the audio side that can't see, I am wearing a cowboy hat because this is a glorious day for me. This is a glorious time to be a Cowboys hate watcher. I cannot stand the Cowboys. I'm a Giants fan, so this is going to be fantastic. I'm going to have a field day with this, but before I begin with this segment, I do like to remind everybody that we love to hear what you guys have to say during the show, whether you guys have a hot take, whether you guys have a burning question, whether you guys have anything that you're dying to share. We're all ears. If you really want your comment and or question to get noticed, then I recommend using Super Chat. You just click on the $ below the chat box. Super Chat's not really your thing, then you can always use the link displayed below the ticker on every show segment. Really helps the show, makes it much more interactive. You should see that the link pop up really soon. It's GSMCpodcast.net, I believe. You should see it pop up really soon. Okay, pop up now. There it is. You can see it, GSMCpodcast.net. So again, they really help the show. They make it much more interactive between myself and you guys. But that's not why you're here. You're here because you want to listen to me talk about the Cowboys collapsing. I mean, you know, it's just bound to happen. Like, every single year, you just wait. You just got to be patient. The Cowboys will not let you down. They will always, always, always lose. Now, they ended up losing before the postseason even started. So that was like, usually I expect the Dallas Cowboys to end up losing and the season being over once playoff comes, because that's sort of been the trend that's been going on, and that's usually what happens. They every single time the Cowboys, they just get off to a good start. The same thing happened this year. This exact same thing happened this year. I remember it was week 3, I believe, and they were going up against the New York Giants. And everybody, once the Cowboys beat the Giants, barely beat the Giants, by the way, all of the Cowboys fans were like, this is our year. This is the year that we're going to win. And guess what? Look what's happened to the Dallas Cowboys now. Now, for those of you guys that did not watch the game the other day with, on Sunday, against the Eagles. I normally don't like the Eagles either, but today I really, really did like them because they just completely mollywopped the Dallas Cowboys. Like, it was so bad that we had a Trey Lance sighting. Remember Trey Lance, everybody? I mean, Trey Lance was, the Niners gave up everything for this guy, and ultimately he did not end up playing many snaps with the Niners. But regardless, the Cowboys, they only put up 6 points in this game, and the Eagles, they put up 34. It's like, I thought this was the Cowboys' year. Not to mention the Cowboys, they've yet to win a game at home. The curtains, not the curtains, the windows and the sun keeps getting in their eyes and they can't catch the football, or maybe they're just bad, who knows. They're 3-6 right now as a team. It's just, it is fantastic. It's absolutely amazing. Again, I'm used to them losing in the postseason. I mean, remember this game? This was a beautiful game, by the way. W decision by Dak Prescott to slide in this game. There was also this game where the collapse was even better. I just did not expect that to happen at all. And I mean, speaking of Dak Prescott, he was the main culprit in most of these playoff losses. And he's also been the main culprit for why this team is just not where it is and not where it's really supposed to be. In these last few games that Dallas has played, they have been absolutely abysmal. I mean, everyone knows it. They're just Dallas. That's just what they do. They always hype up their fans. We're expecting to see another primetime game for Dallas coming in on Monday against the Texans. I think the Texans are going to win in that matchup because, I mean, Dallas is just Dallas. There's really nothing else that needs to be said. Even Dak Prescott himself says that. He actually said, quote, "We asked." That's what he said. That's what he said. It wasn't me. That's what he said. In a quote, you can see it on the voice clip. But again, I mean, Dak Prescott, the last game that he ended up playing it wasn't against the Eagles. I believe it was against the Niners. He ended up getting hurt in that game. And, of course, he was so generous as he ended up throwing 2 interceptions because, how does he not throw 2 interceptions? He's Dak Prescott. That's what he does. And actually, no, it was against the Falcons when he got injured. Excuse me, I was getting a little bit too ahead of myself. But speaking of injury, Dak Prescott, he's been ruled out for the season. He just had season-ending surgery on his hamstring in New York on Wednesday. This was pretty recently. And he flew over to New York on Monday, and he visited a specialist, all the while understanding that surgery would most likely be the outcome. And, I mean, the season was already over for Dallas. And really, this was the best decision for Dak Prescott because, I mean, he wants to be healthy for the next season so that way he can disappoint his fan base even more in the next season so that way they lose in the postseason like everyone's really expecting them to. Yeah, I'm just having a field day with Dallas. I mean, it's just what they do. It's like every single year we have to listen to this fan base. We have to listen to these people just saying, "Oh, Dallas is going to make it to the Super Bowl. Dallas is going to make it to the Super Bowl." When they've only won like 3 playoff games in the last 20 years or something like that. I mean, the last time they won a Super Bowl, I wasn't even born. I wasn't even conceived. I didn't even know what football was last time they won a Super Bowl. And the last time that they won a playoff game, Daniel Jones won a playoff game. So that makes it even less impressive because Dak Prescott is just Dak Prescott. It's really unfortunate for Cowboys fans, but I am loving every second of this season. I mean, if the Giants are going to be bad, then at the very least, I enjoy the season for watching the Cowboys lose. That is just how it works. The fact that they had to lose to the Eagles, though, is a little bit unfortunate because, again, I don't like the Eagles that much either. But, you know, you take a lot of the good from the bad. Really, I just wish that most of the Eagles against Cowboys games, they end in a tie. So that way it just messes up both teams. But, you know, those are the only games that I wish end in a tie, by the way. I think ties should be abolished. But regardless, I mean, this game against the Eagles for the Cowboys. You know what? Let's talk about this game. Let's talk about this game. This was a beautiful, beautiful game. It was beautiful mainly because the Dallas Cowboys were so bad. They were turning the ball over so much. As a team, they only were able to accumulate 66 passing yards. That's with 2 quarterbacks playing, by the way. Cooper Rush had 45 yards in this game. Trey Lance had 21 yards in this game. And when you combine for fewer yards passing than Daniel Jones, you know you have a serious quarterback problem. Not to mention Trey Lance throwing an interception in this matchup. There were several turnovers in this game as well from the Cowboys. This is just what happens. This is just the expectation. You see this? See this right here? This is every single Dallas Cowboys fan, and I am loving every second of it because that is just what they do. Now, on the Eagles side, it seems like Jalen Hurts is returning back to his Jalen Hurts self, right? I mean, we remember in the early ends of the season, Jalen Hurts and the Eagles, they were really turnover prone. And they were also playing pretty ugly. Like, they weren't really playing like the same kind of Eagles team that we saw when they made it to the Super Bowl with Jalen Hurts. But now they seem to have really cleaned it up. Hurts went 14 for 20 on completions. He only got 202 yards. He did throw an interception, but he also ended the game with 2 rushing touchdowns on the ground and 2 passing touchdowns in the air. So that's 4 total touchdowns in this game. And, I mean, you know, he was by far the best quarterback on the field. Even if Dak Prescott was even playing in this game, he would have still been the best quarterback on the field because Dak is Dak. And there's really nothing that needs to be said about this Cowboys season. In fact, what makes this season even worse for Dallas is that they paid this guy all that money. They paid Dak so much money. I think he's the most paid quarterback in the NFL right now. You know, let's look at Dak Prescott's paycheck right about now. Because, again, it's a very, very big number. It's so big. I know it's the biggest in the entire NFL. Yep. 4-year, $240 million contract from Dallas, including an $80 million signing bonus. In fact, this dude is so expensive. They're paying him $240 million to lose in the playoffs. And what's even worse, he couldn't even play the entire season. So, hindsight, and towards the end, and like, you know, hindsight is always 50-50, or 20-20 as they say, I understand. But the best part about this is that the season is over. before they even get to the playoffs. The collapse, it was early, it was beautiful, and it was completely unexpected. Nobody expected this outcome. Unfortunately, I do completely expect the Giants to still lose to the Cowboys on Thanksgiving, which is, going to absolutely ruin my Thanksgiving. But again, losing is just part of being a Giants fan as well, especially this season where we're tanking to get the number 1 pick in the draft. I mean, we want that number 1 pick, baby. That better be our number 1 pick. And it's amazing. It's just amazing to see that Dallas just collapsing before my eyes, well before the playoffs even start. So, that's all that I have on this second segment. I've had my fun with Dallas, and I won't make fun of them until they lose again, and which is actually probably going to be on Monday now that I think about it. But yeah, definitely not going to be talking about Dallas all that much because, again, there's not really much that needs to be talked about with Dallas. The season is over. So we're going to shift our focus back to basketball, and we are going to go ahead and talking about the Milwaukee Bucks. I know Victor Wembanyama had 50 points. We'll talk about that a little bit later, but I really do want to talk about this Bucks team because, Giannis was phenomenal in this matchup as well. And I'll be right back after this short break, so be sure to stay tuned if you guys are interested. How about them Cowboys?
Looking for your daily fix of sports talk without having to pay for it? GSMC Sports Network is available on YouTube. Just search GSMC Sports Network. Get your fix of daily sports talk shows on YouTube, absolutely free. NFL, college football, NBA, MLB, MMA, UFC, fantasy football, and so much more. GSMC Sports Network has shows running all day long, with new sports shows starting every 2 hours. Just like on your favorite cable sports channel, except GSMC Sports Network is absolutely free. Just search GSMC Sports Network on YouTube to catch one of your new favorite shows, like the GSMC College Football Podcast, Chip Shot Football Podcast, Hoops and Heels Women's Sports Podcast, GSMC Basketball Podcast, and so many more. Check it out for yourself. GSMC Sports Network, now available on YouTube absolutely free. Search GSMC Sports Network on YouTube right now.
And we are back with the third segment of the GSMC Sports Podcast presented by the GSMC Sports Network. I'm done having my fun with Dallas. That was a great segment. I loved every second of it. So we're going to move on to NBA basketball, and we are going to talk about the Milwaukee Bucks game yesterday because Giannis was absolutely phenomenal. And we're going to talk about whether or not is the Bucks season, have they revived their season hopes? Have they revived it? Let's find out. So, if you guys did not pay attention to the NBA games, I wouldn't be surprised if you guys did. It's still pretty early in the season to be paying attention to basketball. But Giannis Antetokounmpo, he ended the game with 59 points and 14 rebounds and 7 assists, along with 3 blocks. And in the first quarter alone, the Bucks, they scored 24 points. Giannis had 22 of those 24 points. He was doing absolutely everything, anything that you could really ask for in a basketball player. He was doing. He was also doing this without Damian Lillard, who I have no idea exactly what's wrong with Damian Lillard. I don't know if he's on an injury or I don't know if he's taking a break, but regardless, he was able to do this without Dame, but fret not because Brook Lopez had a great game, 29 points, and along with 8 rebounds to go along with that. Dylan Wright, for some reason, was playing 27 minutes, and he made 0 points, 0 for 4. Fantastic. Then there was A.J. Green, 1 for 5 from the field, and 1 for 4 from 3. So, just typical performance coming in from A.J. Green, I guess. And then Gary Trent Jr., he finally had a great game. Not a really great game, a good game, I should say. 4 for 8, 3 for 5 from the 3 with 11 points. And on the Pistons side, Cade Cunningham, 35 points, 11 assists, 7 rebounds, still lost, of course. And Malik Beasley, 26 points and 10 rebounds. It was a very, very high-scoring night for a lot of these NBA teams, and well, at least from an individual standpoint, I should say. So, is the Bucks season revived? Because now they have recently won 2 games in a row. That is a season record for the Bucks right now. And they're 4-8. They're 12th in the Eastern Conference. Is their season revived? No, it's not. These last few wins for the Bucks, I'm sorry to say this, you Bucks fans, but they were incredibly fluky. No ifs, ands, or buts about that. Let's deep dive in the teams that they ended up beating this season. So, as I mentioned before, they ended up beating the Pistons. Now, the Pistons, they're bad. So, that win should be taken with a huge grain of salt. They are not a good team. They're not a winning team. This team should easily beat the Pistons. There shouldn't even be a debate about it, and the game was close. I understand. I go by the philosophy, you win by a mile, you win by an inch. It doesn't matter. A win is a win, and I completely understand that. However, in this instance, when we're talking about the Bucks, this should not happen. This is just a generational run coming in from Doc Rivers and Darvin Ham. Just 2 of the worst NBA coaches in the history of NBA coaches. But aside from that, this win should be taken with a huge grain of salt. The last win that they had was against the Toronto Raptors. Another win that should be taken with a huge grain of salt because the Raptors aren't even 100% healthy. They don't have Scotty Barnes, who is, in my opinion, their best player on the entire team. And he was leading the Raptors in every single statistical category last season before he got hurt as well. So they did not have Scotty Barnes in this matchup. I understand that the Bucks didn't have Damian Lillard in this matchup either, but still, this win should also be taken with a grain of salt, because if they had Scotty Barnes, I believe they would have won this matchup. Grady Dick had 32 points on the Bucks in this game, and if Scotty Barnes was in it, then most likely this game would have been way more competitive than what it was. The final score was 85-99. So that win should also be taken with a huge grain of salt. And then they lost to the Celtics, of course. Before that, they lost to the Knicks, of course. And then before that, they were able to beat the Jazz. The Jazz, going into that game, had the worst record in the entirety of the NBA, going 1-7. So they effectively beated the worst team in the entire NBA, which, again, that should also be taken with another huge grain of salt for the Bucks. Again, huge grain of salt in these wins so far, right? I mean, the last, let's see, how many wins did they even? The last 3 wins that I've talked about should be taken, all of them should be taken with huge grains of salt. Because, again, it's like, no, the Jazz are the worst team. We're not going to give the Bucks any credit for beating the worst team in the entire NBA. And we're also not going to give them credit for beating 2 teams that were injured and not 100% healthy. No, I'm not doing it. And then, let's see, they lost to the Cavs, of course they did. And they lost to the Cavs again, of course they did. And before that, let's see, they lost to the Grizzlies, they lost to the Celtics again, and they lost to the Nets, of course they did. And in the beginning of the season, another injured team. They beat the 76ers without Paul George and without Joel Embiid. So, all of these wins for the Bucks have been against bad teams or injury-riddled teams. This Bucks team is not good. This Bucks team is awful. This Bucks team is disappointing. This Bucks team should not get any credit for any of the wins that they have this season. This is absolutely horrible. It sounds like I'm really laying it down on the Bucks, and I am a little bit harsh. I do understand that, but I cannot stand Doc Rivers. I cannot stand Darvin Ham. These 2 are just incredibly bad. I have a feeling that I could be a better coach than both of these guys, and that's saying something, because I usually never, ever, ever say that about any of these coaches, because I think they have some great basketball minds, and there's a lot of talent and a lot of smart people in the NBA. I think they're like every other team has fantastic coaches. I'd never challenge any of them to coach. But Doc Rivers and Darvin Ham, that would be one of those coaches that I think I could be better than. I mean, this is just, it's appalling to me, right? The only teams that have a worse record than the Bucks are the Wizards, the 76ers, and the Raptors. The Raptors and the 76ers, they get a little bit of a pass, mainly because they're injured, right? But aside from that, the Bucks are the worst team. They are by far worse than the 76ers. They are by far worse than the Raptors. They are worse than every single one of those teams because there is absolutely zero excuse for the Bucks to be playing this bad. Like, you can make an excuse for the 76ers not being able to stay healthy. You can make an excuse for the Raptors not being able to stay healthy. Can't really make an excuse for Washington. They're just stinky like that. But every other team has an excuse for being bad. There is none for the Milwaukee Bucks. Absolutely none. You cannot name one excuse for the Bucks being bad aside from their coaches being absolutely abysmal and Darvin Ham being bad and Doc Rivers being bad. This is just an example of a very, very, very bad team. These guys are good. Like, this team has a good enough roster to win these games. But the coaching is not there. It's just not. And it really, really upsets me because this is just wasting prime-time performances like this from Giannis Antetokounmpo. Thankfully, it wasn't a complete and total waste, but it's like, seriously? They cannot win a game most of the time when Giannis or Dame drop 30? That doesn't make any sense. It really, really gets me upset. It really does get me upset because this is just wasting Giannis's talents. This is wasting Damian Lillard's talents. This season has not been revived for the Bucks at all. Until they beat a legitimate team, and until they beat a team that's actually good, and a team that's not injured, then maybe I'll look into this a little bit more. But as of right now, the only wins that they've had are against injured teams and the Detroit Pistons. If you beat the Pistons, it should not be it's not an achievement if you beat the Pistons. I'm sorry, this team is beatable. The Pistons are beatable. It's not a highlight. No. But yeah, every single one of these wins that the Bucks have had have been against injury-riddled teams, and they've been against teams that are less than mediocre. So, no, the season is not back. Their season is over at this rate. But that's all that I got to really say on this third segment. I know it was very upsetting. I was very, very mad in this segment. I don't know why. But regardless, that's all that I have to say. So now we're going to go ahead and go into the fourth segment where we recap all of the games that took place yesterday. And there was a lot of scoring. Like, a lot of individual scoring in this game. In all of these games, actually. So we're going to talk about all of that in this next segment right after this short break. Be sure to stay tuned, and I'll be right back.
For the best and latest podcasts available anywhere, go to the podcast app on your cell phone and type in GSMC to access free content-rich podcasts on health and wellness, book reviews, sports, entertainment, relationships, social media, movies, technology, finance, and even weird news. Subscribe and download the GSMC Podcast Network's family of shows, available everywhere podcasts are found.
And we're back with the fourth segment of the GSMC Sports Podcast presented by the GSMC Sports Network. And in this fourth segment, we are going to be doing a quick NBA recap. So let's go ahead and dive right in. And we are going to talk about one of the most surprising games of all of yesterday's games. There was a lot of them. Victor Wembanyama. He ended the game with 50 points. He was amazing. Now, it should be noted that Victor had broken several records with this 50-point game, right? Now, should also be noted that the Spurs, they were playing against the Wizards, so, a relatively bad team. And they also had a native from France on the other team, Alexander Sarr. So, clearly, Victor Wembanyama took this matchup very, very personally and just decided to completely wreck Alexander Sarr in this entire game. Alexander Sarr has been horrible. One of the worst second overall picks that I've ever seen in my entire life. He ended the game with 12 points, 2 rebounds, 2 assists, and he's been averaging 9 points per game, 5 rebounds, 2 assists. He's been pretty good at the blocks, I will say that. And he's averaging, I believe he's averaging 2.3 blocks per game, which is 5th in the league, which is, pretty good. But again, the shooting and the field goal percentage, he's a center, and he's shooting 34% from the field. That is really bad. He is also shooting 16% from 3. Also really bad. And Victor Wembanyama knew this and just completely mollywopped him on the entire court. So, with taking that into account, Victor Wembanyama became the fastest player. Actually, no, excuse me. In this game, this was the fastest 50-point game ever recorded in NBA history. Victor scored 50 points in 26 minutes, which is ridiculous. It took him 26 minutes to completely cook Alexander Czar. Imagine what he could do in 48. He's also the 8th and youngest Spur all time to score 50 points, the youngest center to have a 50-point game, the tallest player to score 50 points in a game, the youngest center to accumulate 8 three-pointers in a game, youngest player with 50 points and 5+ three-point makes in a game, 4th player since 2010 to hit 6 three-pointers in 3 straight games, and the 3 other players being Steph, Klay Thompson, and Trae Young. The kid is 20 years old, and he did all that in one night. Again, the most impressive accolade and the most impressive stat that he accumulated was scoring 50 in just 26 minutes. I mean, that is ridiculous. I mean, the pacing that they were playing with is phenomenal, and I mean, the way that he was scoring the ball, also phenomenal. But he wasn't the only one who was having a great night. No. Jordan Poole on the Wizards was also having a fantastic night. He ended with 42 points. He had 5 personal fouls, however, but he also got 6 assists and was 15 for 22 from the field, 6 for 9 from 3. So again, very good performance coming in from these two players, but again, Victor came out victorious. Right now, the Spurs are 6-6. They are completely neutral, and excuse me. But judging by where they are in the standings, let me just go ahead and open up the standings if the internet wants to load. Yeah, they're 10th in the standings. They would be in the play-in spot. That would be pretty interesting to see Victor Wembanyama in the playoffs. But again, I don't think that's really going to happen. Now, next amazing performance. The Knicks, they ended up losing to the Bulls for some reason. I don't know what's going on with these Knicks, especially in this game. I mean, Karl Anthony Towns, he ended the game with 46 points and 10 rebounds. He became the first Knick, he became the first Knick since Carmelo Anthony to end the game with 45+ points and 10 rebounds. Again, no other Knick has done that recently since Carmelo Anthony. So that is great performance coming in from Karl Anthony Towns. Mikal Bridges had 20 points, 6 rebounds, and 5 assists. But of course, he forgot how to shoot the three-pointer in this game, 1 for 4 from 3. Jalen Brunson also forgot how to shoot the three-pointer in this game, 3 for 9 from 3. 9 for 20 from the field. OG Anunoby also forgot how to shoot the 3-ball in this game. 5 for 14, 2 for 7 from 3 with 14 points. And Miles McBride also forgot how to shoot the 3-pointer in this game. 0 for 3. The only one who didn't forget how to shoot was Cameron Payne, and he went 4 for 4 and 3 for 3. 11 points. Great. But again, it just wasn't enough for the Bulls, who ended up winning 124-123. It was a 1-point difference. And Vucevic ended with a double-double, 19 points, 11 assists, still got outplayed by Karl Anthony Towns. Zach LaVine played phenomenally in this game, 31 points, 8 assists, 7 rebounds. Kobe White had 22 points. And let's see, Patrick Williams ended with 18 points. Again, pretty good scoring coming in from a lot of these players today. Not to mention, let me see here just to make sure that I'm correct. I think SGA had 29 points, almost the 30-point game. But Jalen Williams had 30 points in this matchup. He had 31. And the Pelicans, they have been very, very bad without having, Zion Williamson in the lineup. Of course, they're going to be bad without their best player. It makes total sense. Brandon Ingram, he was the best player on the floor for the Pelicans, 18 points, but it wasn't enough because the Thunder ended up winning 106-88. So, completely outplayed. And let's see. The Cavs, they continue their flawless streak, 13-0, and Donovan Mitchell played pretty well in this matchup, 23 points, 13 rebounds, almost a triple-double with 9 assists. Darius Garland, he ended with 25 points, and since this was a back-to-back game for Joel Embiid, he did not play because, he's so scared. He doesn't want to play in these games. Jared McCain was fantastic, though, in this matchup. 34 points along with 10 assists. That guy is a sleeper in the draft. I understand he paints his nails, so not many people are really going to be a fan of him, but he can shoot the ball. So, I mean, if painting his nails helps them shoot the ball, please, just keep painting your nails. And Caleb Martin also played really well in this matchup, 18 points. Kelly Oubre had 20 points. And Kyle Lowry had 0. So, yeah. Of course, no Joel Embiid means that there is going to be a really, really bad chance that this team was just not going to win. And that really makes sense. But, again, Victor having his ridiculous 50 points, that was really more or less the highlight of tonight. That was what everybody was really talking about in these games. And, Giannis having 59 was also really impressive. But aside from that, the Boston Celtics, they were also just, completely destroying the Brooklyn Nets. Of course they were. Jason Tatum continues his MVP caliber performance, 36 points, 10 assists, almost 10 rebounds. He ended with 9. Jaylen Brown also ended with a double-double, 24 points and 12 rebounds. No real dominant performance from Derek White, however, but again, doesn't matter when you have Peyton Picard coming off the bench scoring 23 points. So, the Nets, they didn't really have many people to stop the Boston Celtics and their onslaught. I already talked about the Lakers and how LeBron ended with a triple-double, so I won't talk about that. The Magic, however, surprised me with a win, beating the Pacers. I should have expected that, but really, I don't really have much faith in the Magic without Paolo Banchero. Franz Wagner, he ended the game with 29 points, and on the Pacers side, Siakam ended with 25 points. Tyrese Halliburton forgot how to shoot the ball in this game and went 3 for 14 and 2 for 8 from the three-point line, ended with 9 points. He did get 11 assists, so he is a true point guard. Trae Young is better than him. And there was also Benedict Mathurin, who ended with 23 points and 12 rebounds, and really not much of a scoring domination coming in from the Pacers as I would expect. I'm usually accustomed to them playing bad defense, but I usually expect them to score a little bit more. But when Halliburton forgets how to shoot, that usually happens. Now, Houston, they ended up beating the Clippers in this matchup, which is something that I expected, and everybody on the Houston starting lineup, they had double-digit points, aside from Jabari Smith Jr., who ended with 5. And let's see. I can't really give you a highlight player of this game, because this game was it was pretty spread in terms of scoring. Everyone played rather mediocre. Norman Powell, who's been playing really well, he went 5 for 18 with 13 points. Just not a very good shooting night for him. James Harden, 6 for 15, 19 points, and 3 for 8 from 3. And on Houston's side, more or less the same caliber performance coming in from the rest of these guys. Houston shot 15 for 40 from 3, and Clippers shot 14 for 38 from 3. So, not very solid performance coming in there. And the Suns, they ended up losing to the Sacramento Kings again. And the Kings this time completely destroyed them. No overtime required in this game. De'Aaron Fox ended with 29 points, 10 assists. Sabonis ended with another double-double, almost a triple-double, of course. DeMar DeRozan had only played for only 17 minutes, so I suspect that he's injured. 2 points, and, just a really, really not good, just a bad performance coming in from DeRozan. But again, he only played a couple of minutes, so I'm assuming that there are some injuries there. Speaking of injuries, I've been wanting to do this for a while, but I keep forgetting... until the very end and when I finish all my segments. So I'm going to go ahead and try and do this now. But there have been so many players out with injuries in the NBA. Ja Morant is out with a hip injury. Paolo Banchero is out with a right torn oblique. Kevin Durant has a left calf strain. Kawhi Leonard has a knee injury. Zion Williams has a left hamstring strain. Lonzo Ball has a wrist injury. Kristaps has a foot injury. Chris Middleton has an ankle injury. Chet Holmgren has a right lilac hip fracture. Joel Embiid, left knee management. And CJ McCollum, right adductor strain. Tyrese Maxey, right hamstring strain. Aaron Gordon, right calf strain. DeJounte Murray, left hand fracture. Scotty Barnes, orbital fracture. Jimmy Butler, sprained right ankle. Those are all of the key players on every single team that's been injured so far, which is a lot of them. This is not, in terms of injuries for this season, this is not a very good start. a very, very bad start, in fact. But I just wanted to do that while I was, I had to do that at some point because, I prolonged that segment for a little bit too long. But yeah, those are all of the players that have been ruled out with injuries as of right now. So, keep that in mind. And let's see. The Blazers, they ended up beating the Timberwolves again. Shaedon Sharpe, he ended the game with 33 points. If you look at the box scores, it almost seems like Shannon Sharpe is playing. Donovan Clingan ended with a double-double, 17 points and 12 rebounds. And let's see. For the Timberwolves side, Anthony Edwards ended with 24 points. Julius Randle ended with 20 points and 10 rebounds. Rudy Gobert ended with 12 points and 10 rebounds. And nobody else really played all that well on the Timberwolves. They shot 7 for 39 as a team from 3. And the Blazers weren't that much better either. 9 for 25 from 3. But again, it was a really dominant win coming in from the Blazers. One of the very few times that they're going to end up winning, I think. But that is the recap for all of the NBA games that went down, as well as a bonus on all of the injuries that were taking place. So now we're going to go ahead and go into the final segment, which is going to be a prediction and a preview of the matchup between the Washington Commanders and the Philadelphia Eagles. So I'll be right back after this short break. Be sure to stay tuned. And we are back with the fifth and the final segment of the GSMC Sports Podcast presented by the GSMC Sports Network. And in this final segment, we are going to be talking about my expectations for this matchup between the Commanders and the Philadelphia Eagles. Now, as you guys might know, being a Giants fan and all, I despise both of these teams. I wish this game can end in a tie, but I don't think that's what's going to happen. The Eagles, they're going to be playing at home, primetime game at home. Immediately, automatically, the Eagles, they have an advantage. Because again, this is a primetime game, and they're going to be playing in their dome. They're going to be chanting that annoying song that I just cannot stand. And Jalen Hurts, he's been playing really well so far recently in these games. He completely destroyed the Dallas Cowboys. Love it. I'm going to say it again. The Eagles completely destroyed the Dallas Cowboys. And let's see. In the other game that they ended up playing, I mean, they kind of had to put up a fight against Jacksonville. And Jacksonville, well, they're a horrible team, actually, with Trevor Lawrence. I mean, Trevor Lawrence threw 2 interceptions in that game. But Jalen Hurts has been very, very consistent. Getting a touchdown on the ground, getting 2 touchdowns in the air, and he also had help from Saquon Barkley. Just imagine if the Giants had a running back as good as Saquon Barkley. Oh, wait a minute. Yeah. Sadness, and more sadness. They also ended up scoring 37 points on the Bengals in a huge win, and I mean, when they have Barkley playing as good as he's been playing, they're a very, very tough team to beat. And I mean, they also completely wrecked the Giants the last time they played, only allowing 3 points. That was absolutely embarrassing, and that was like very sad. I wanted to crawl up into a ball, and I never wanted to go out and see the light of day after that. But after that win against the Giants, I don't know what it was, but it's like we must have been like a shot of sniffing salt for the Eagles, because like after they completely beat us, they were like, hey, we're the Eagles, we should be doing this every single time, and they've been doing it every single time. And now that they have home field advantage in this matchup, I think that this will give them the slight little edge. Now, on Washington's side, they're coming off of a brutal loss to the Steelers. Now, whether you think the refs messed up the call or whatever it is, it doesn't necessarily matter. They ended up losing. However, they've been on a ridiculous tear so far in this season. I mean, Jaden Daniels has been phenomenal. As a rookie, he's been fantastic, right? Arguably the best offensive rookie in this entire draft class. And if Malik Neighbors wasn't a rookie, but the fact that he has Daniel Jones as a quarterback, really, there's nothing that can be done about that. But again, really, the only, how should I say this? The only real issue for the Commanders, at least in my opinion, is that they have yet to get a win against a good team. Let's go ahead and look at their win and at their records and who they've played. So they lost to the Bucks. The Bucks are a pretty solid team, but they beat the Giants. Giants are bad. They beat the Bengals. At this point, the Bengals were really bad, and they were 0-3 at this point, and their defense is also atrocious. And they ended up beating the Cardinals, which at this point were also rather atrocious, and their defense to start out the season was really, really bad. Now their defense has been much better so far, but again, at this point, they weren't that good of a team. The Browns, bad team. Ravens, actually a competent team, and they ended up losing. Panthers, bad team. Of course, they end up beating them. The Bears, another bad team. They ended up beating them. The Giants, another bad team. They ended up beating them. And then the Steelers, a competent team. So when it comes to the Eagles going and facing them on the road, I don't think they're going to end up winning this matchup, mainly because so far most of their wins have come against less than mediocre defenses and less than mediocre teams overall. And really, it's the point in time that's really important with a lot of these teams. Because, again, as I mentioned before, the Cardinals at that point, their defense was not that good. And the Bengals at that point, not only was their defense not that good, but their team was also a little meh. Like, there was no real, it was really just Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase. And it kind of still is Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase, but they still figuring out ways to win despite their defense being meh. But aside from that, again, we're talking about time and place. Right now, this time, the Eagles are dominating so far in these games. And place. The Eagles are going to be playing at home in that terrible stadium and screaming their fight song, which is just blech, I can't stand it. But aside from that, time and place, I think the Eagles have a much better advantage to win in this matchup. And this is for the division, by the way. I should have mentioned that before. This is for the division. Whichever team ends up coming out on top is going to be on top of the entire division standings in the NFC East. So this is very significant. This is a very important game. I have no doubt that, all of the Eagles fans that go to my college are going to be watching this game, screaming at the TV. And I don't know if there's any sort of Commanders fans out there, but, we'll see how it goes. But that's all that I really have to say about this final segment. Again, sadly, I wish all of these games can end in a tie. I wish that both of these games ended in a tie and I never have to pick them ever again and they just cease to exist. But unfortunately, I have to pick one team to end up win the game, and I think that team is going to be the Eagles. So, unfortunately, the Birds, bleh. But aside from that, that's all that I have to say about this segment, and that is it for the show. So thank you so much for tuning in to the GSMC Basketball Podcast, Sports Podcast. I keep messing that up. Sorry about that, but your support means a lot to us, so remember to subscribe to the show, leave a positive review, It really does make a difference. We also invite you to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, and Instagram for more content and updates. As usual, we love to hear what you guys have to say during the show, whether you have a hot take, whether you have a burning question, whether you have anything that you're dying to share. We're all ears. If you use Super Chat, you just click on the $ below the chat box, or you can use the link displayed below the ticker, gsmcpodcast.net, and you can send in your comments and donations that way. Either or really help the show. That's all that I have to say. Thank you so much for tuning in. I am your host, Nelson, and as always, take care.
Let's go. I wake up to a little bit of drool on my pillow, feel like it's gonna be a bad day. Yeah, I'm tired of shit, and the